goes on about the pros and cons of the
Bottom
endowments.
line is, if you're gonna be a responsible landowner, you need to pay your fair share of local, somehow pay your fair share of local taxes. You know, the federal government, on the west side, we have the reservation, and the land that's in trust to the federal government, we get the schools get we get SRS funding for that, plus impact aid, and we get nothing from the state on state land except for what is through the distribution account. And private owners pay property tax. The Fish and Game, they pay in lieu of taxes, and the state IDL sits there and doesn't pay anything, and it becomes very, very frustrating.
So how is it viewed, and I'm just, so like Fish and Game might pay a Pilt or Stimson, for example, if they were or Malpas when they owned the land prior to purchase, they paid, it's $4 and something an acre, basically on that timberland tax base when you look at it. So they paid a tax amount, but they pay nothing to the school directly, like through the endowment distribution. How is that 240,000, or as it goes up, as it's projected to, how is that viewed in relationship to a tax payment? The endowments do make a payment to the school districts, in a sense, through the distributions.
But we get back a whole lot less than we pay in. That's my point.
Say, I didn't quite catch.
We get a whole lot less back. What we lose in property tax is more than what we get back from the endowment fund.
The problem though,
Yeah.
that with lots of value on the ground and you're doing lots of logging, that makes everybody pay. Everybody that pays taxes is getting the benefit. And most people look at it that it creates jobs, it keeps us going. But when you get ground like Malpas that you just bought, it's kind of heartbreaking, because I'm not going to live for 120 years or so. So you look at what that does, and that's a long-term thing. It's not a small-term thing, and I think that's part of the problem. I think if that had a lot of timber on it, we wouldn't be saying a word. But we don't believe, and I know that through your system it allows you to log somewhere else, but that might not be in Benewah County, and that might not create, well, see, Boundary County is fine with it, see. We were in a meeting and they looked at it and it justifies it. But what we got to try to do is work out something to try to make us a little more whole if we can. Like buying Forest Service ground, something like that. That would be like going to heaven, if you could pick up a whole bunch of Forest Service ground. So, that's something would be, and we've talked about it for years, we have, and but it might get closer now if they don't vote the guy out, so, so
You will see an uplift in our harvest level on our existing land base, even in Benewah County.
Yes.
We're working through as we're working through our sustained yield calculation right now, you will see, because of this ground, even though it doesn't have a lot of merchantable volume on the ground we bought, it's got a lot of growing stock, so that allows us to accelerate on our existing ground, and it's not a small amount. It means real activity here in Benewah County. So that 13,000 acres will mean that on the existing 57,000 acres that we already own, there will be quite a bit more activity occurring on that ground because of that 13,000 acres.
We understand you're in a hard spot. Appreciate you coming in today. I've taken this controversy, but that's caused us a real problem, especially if you guys buy more here.
Okay.
But, like I said, I, for one, like the idea of the public access, and you guys do a great job, Reforce, and all that kind of stuff. It's just the tax problems that bother me.
thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can buy a lot more land with that 109
Depending on the price of it, that 109 million, 70,000 acres, 70 to 80,000 acres, somewhere in that ballpark.
So if you buy some more big parcels of land in Benewah County, that's really gonna create a tax shift for us. And
We're gonna work on that, Phil, on buying that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
hopefully you understand what our problem is here.
Oh, I think they understand.
You're forcing us to do less with, more with less dollars and less land mass to generate tax dollars from. And it's just not right. And there's no way you can talk your way around it. Okay?
All right, thank you.
Thank you, yeah.
Get your coat. I do that all the time.
Well, we're past public comment.
If we could do a quick call for it, I would make sure.
Anybody got any public comment?
Sure, yeah. What I was hearing that was not real clear, I don't think, in the final argument there between you and Mr. Welsh, is just like the highway user revenue distribution account, it's targeting to a specific base of need in the counties, when that gets distributed back to the county. I think what I was hearing him say is the endowment lands, which they're actually restocking the number of acres that was lost over historically. I'm thinking what I'm hearing is, while it's not gonna go to all the taxation districts, like current property taxes on those grounds would, it would not just go to timber. Timber lands would not just pay taxes that go to, forest reforestation or something. It would go to all of our taxation districts. I think what he was saying is, the land that goes into this land, did he call it land bank? Mixing it up. The land that they acquire going into the endowment fund, whatever funds are distributed from that, strictly go to schools. And so your other taxation districts, like the schools, the hospital, that suffers.
The money coming from the land.
Do you understand where I'm
going? The money coming from the land, going to the schools, comes from timberland in North Idaho to schools all over the state.
Right.
And if every county participated on an equal footing basis, it'd be no big deal. But when you have, like Lake Whitman, Clearwater County, 250,000 acres of state land in their one county. And so they generate a lot of revenue for the endowment fund.
Right.
And the only thing they get back is what goes to the times by the student population, and that's why I was trying to get, and he knows the answer.
Right.
He knows they're sticking it to the rural counties, but he doesn't want it.
So all I was just trying to clarify is, it sounds like
Go
it's
ahead.
going directly to schools rather than all of our taxation districts.
At our Saturday town hall meeting, I sat in, Bill Gosling was talking with Jody Hendricks and another woman about the school funding formula. They have a new one, and he had a chart, and he's explaining it, and I just kind of overheard, so I don't have the full detail, but they have a better way to fund rural schools. And the numbers I saw, just from my memory, look like it's about a 10% increase for the money that's coming back to the rural schools on this new funding formula. And so I would suggest getting in touch with Bill Gosling, because education is the baby. And
I heard the same thing.
So he's got some information that could
Yeah.
help you understand it.
When I was down in Boise last month, I talked to both Representative Troy and Representative Gosling about that same thing. They know the situation.
Yeah.
Then the governor knows the situation.
Yeah.
He knows it, so
Don't they have something they're working on in the legislature?
yeah, they are.
So we all need to lobby that.
Any more comments? Anybody got any more comments? Kate?
So I guess the good news is, Chris Ronaldo emailed Lynn over there and said he is not feeling well, so he won't be here today. So we can jump right to
Okay.
TL.
You're in?
Okay. Good morning. I have a update on the Slaughterhouse Bridge replacement. So we got a schedule here and a little bit of a scope of work. I'm Chris Mansfield.
Oh, sure.
Nice to meet you. No action required today, but just an update.
Let me ask you, now the bridge, the end of the bridge has been repaired,
Again,
so when we wanna take the restrictions off that bridge so they can get across it. So, where are we at as far as construction? Are we next year or the following year?
we are the following year.
The following year.
Yeah, yeah. When was the bridge last repaired, Jack?
This winter.
Okay, and ITD comes and does a bridge rating?
I have no
They
idea.
do every year, but it's
Yeah.
typically in the summer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's
so-
it's all rip-wrapped around the part that was taken
good.
away.
Good, okay.
Yeah,
Okay, mostly on the south side?
mostly on the south side.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
good. That was in need of a little TLC.
Well, we gotta use that bridge.
Yeah.
So we, so it was,
It was time,
yeah,
yeah. Okay.
so,
So we have completed phase one, the concept and charter report. Thank goodness, that took quite a while longer than expected, but we do have the multiple culvert scenario has been approved and endorsed by LTAC, so that's a good thing.
good.
Phase two is the preliminary design, which we're getting scoped here, and that's gonna take about 18 months, primarily because of the environmental. There's definitely wetlands around the bridge structure, and then further investigations are required for cultural resources, and adverse effects report. The reporting takes quite a while, and then the review takes quite a while. So not gonna be a lot of, I guess, field activities happening, but lots of environmental assessments and report writing. So, and that takes us through the summer of 2020. We got a green dot here shown on our first page. And at that point, when the preliminary design is approved, then we can do the final design, which really doesn't take that long. And then construction in the summer of 2021, 2 years from now.
Okay,
So, seems like quite a while for
something that's, you're not gonna change the level at all.
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, so, I think the front page is a good example or a good representation of what the major tasks are and how long those are gonna take. The next 6 pages are just the beginning of our scope of work. We're still working with the 3 sub-consultants that we had on phase 1, and I'm working with them to get their scopes reviewed, and then we'll turn it over to LTAC and back to you guys to review our phase 2
okay.
preliminary design scope and fees, so.
Okay. Okay.
Any
Questions?
questions or more concerns?
Long time to put in a couple culverts, huh?
I was just thinking that, Jack. I think I could do that in a day or two.
Indeed.
Welcome to the world of doing business. with
Yeah.
government.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Have a good day.
I got an awakening, or a rude awakening on that when we moved the rotating bacon there.
Yeah.
Commissioners, could I cover Chris Romano's item?
Yes.
I know what it is, and maybe we could just keep that moving.
Yes, we can.
It's some property up by St. Joe City, and there's some platted, it's not in the.
The only one that's not aware of that's him.
So it's some property that was platted into streets with lots and blocks, and then it was never developed. The plat itself was vacated, so there's no longer lots and blocks, but the streets were dedicated to the public. So it's some streets that have never been developed on this little, on an area that's mostly used for recreational property. And the property owners have Chris Ronaldo doing work, survey work and that kind of thing, and they're asking to vacate those streets that have never been opened and never developed, and they're doing some private easements. Would have to come in front of the county for a street vacation proceeding. They have to file an application, and there's a process to go through that. But the request is a little bit unusual because they want to vacate the streets before they actually dedicate the easements, just because when you then vacate everything, it changes the legal description for everything. So what he's asking for is kind of permission to come to the county to go forward with the street vacation before actually dedicating the easements to the properties up there. I told him that I thought it made sense. We're doing some kind of side work on some easements, so there's a little bit of a, I know what the project is going on up there, but told him he needed to come and make that request. It's not asking to vacate